Says it's being recorded.
Perfect. All right, gang. Kevin here, Life22, and today we have my friend Kenny Polcari from Slatestone Capital,
Slatestone Wealth.
Slatestone Wealth. And Kenny, how many years were you on Wall Street?
Well, I'm still really on Wall Street, but physically at 11 Wall Street, I was there for 40 years.
Okay.
I was as a member of the New York Stock Exchange, running around screaming and yelling. I was one of those guys that used to see on TV, in the middle of those crowds.
Right. Okay. And now I found you via I first listened to you on the Morning Wire
Yeah,
from the
yeah, you
Daily
might have.
Wire. Yeah, and then I found you on Twitter, and that's how we kind of kicked up our friendship. And then just a wealth of information. And now you've got your Substack. You do your morning excerpts. Uh,
I write the daily morning blog, which I then turn into a video. So if people don't want to read it or they're driving in the car, they can listen to me. And that goes out on my YouTube. It gets published to my Twitter and my LinkedIn and all that stuff as well.
okay, and then now most recently Yahoo Finances picked you up, and you've got your
I've got a podcast called Trader Talk that launched on Yahoo Finance at the end of January. It drops once a week on Wednesdays. So right now, I guess there's about 8 or 9 of them that have dropped. But I actually think that might grow. I think I might do it more often than once a week because they're happy with it and I enjoy doing it. So we'll see how that goes. But currently, right now, it's called Trader Talk on the Yahoo Finance channel. You can also find I mean, I'll repost it on my Twitter as well. But you'll find it. You just Google it and you'll find it.
right. Yeah, I usually just kind of track you on Substack, and that's how I catch up on your morning stuff. And
Um,
usually,
yeah, and that the Yahoo podcast also goes out across all those channels, Apple and Spotify and everywhere else where you're going to find a podcast.
right. Okay, cool. And then I was gonna say, yeah, and that I was gonna say one of the things that like my wife when I talk, I was like, hey, I got Kenny coming on today, and she goes, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "It's the guy who talks about finance, and then he always gives us a recipe." So at the end of every one of your excerpts, you give us a beautiful recipe for what's for dinner. So I always think it's a
Yeah,
very niche topic.
and that was actually by mistake the way that happened because I started writing my blog and my thoughts when I was on the floor in the middle of the great financial crisis and in 2012, and I used to just jot my thoughts down because it was cathartic for me as we were going through that crisis, being on the floor of the exchange and the way it felt, right, as the world was crashing. And so I started writing that blog as a way to help me. And I used to send my thoughts to all my clients, only went to my clients. And my clients, remember, on the floor as a broker, I was an institutional broker. So my clients weren't you and, Joe Q Public. They were mutual funds like Fidelity or Capital Research or Wellington Capital in Boston or hedge funds around the world. They were institutional clients that were clients of mine. And so I used to send this to my clients. And then this one Monday morning, I got up after the week before had been a horrendous week in the European markets, and European banks were getting absolutely slaughtered. And I went home on Friday night and I said to my wife, we were empty nesters at the time, both our kids were away at college. And I went around and I pulled down all the shades on the first floor of the house and I took the phone off the hook when you actually had a phone in your house. And I just said to my wife, I don't want to talk to anybody all weekend. I just wanted to go upstairs, take a shower, put on my pajamas, come down, light a fire, and cuddle on the couch and watch movies, right, and cook because I love to cook. My wife loves to cook. My wife is Puerto Rican. She cooks great Latin food. I cook Italian food, and then together we cook everything else. So that's what we actually did. It was a cold, rainy weekend up in New York in Westchester County. And so Monday morning, I went to work and I'm typing my note at 6 o'clock in the morning and the phone rings and it was a client of mine. Now, sometimes you get nervous because when the phone rings at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's not typically a good conversation. It's like somebody really needs you because somebody's dead or something happened or whatever, right? And so I pick up the phone. I pick up the phone, and it was my buddy who was a client down in Dallas, and he called just to do nothing but say hello and chit chat about what was going on and blah 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 and all this stuff. So he asked me what I did for the weekend, and I told him that same story. So he knows me and he knows that I like to cook, right? You like to golf, I like to cook. That's just the way it is. And so
Yeah.
he asked me, what did I make for dinner? And so I went through 4 or 5 of the recipes we made. And one of them was just arugula pesto. It's just pesto made with arugula instead of basil, right? And arugula's got like a little peppery kick to it. And so it gives it a different flavor than a basil pesto, which is a little bit sweeter. And so he said to me, geez, that sounds good. Can you send me the recipe? And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And now I'm typing the note as I'm talking to him. So I said, I'll just put it in the bottom of the note and send it to you. So I put it in the bottom of the note, and when I hit the send button, it went out to the list, right? And I thought to myself, oh God, I'm gonna get my shoes broken today because now there's a recipe in this note, right?
Right.
What was really, really funny is that I got 16 phone calls because at the time I had 16 clients. I had 16 phone calls, and everybody wanted to know why there was a recipe in the bottom of the note today. Like, what's with the recipe? I go, oh, it was a mistake. I meant to send it to one guy, blah, blah. And so the reaction from the people wasn't like, you're an idiot. The reaction was, well, I'm going to try this tonight, or I'm going to send it to my wife, or I'm going to send it to my girlfriend, or whatever it was, right? I said, listen, it takes you all of 15 minutes to make. As long as it takes you to get the water to boil the pasta, you can make the pesto sauce, some garlic bread, a glass of white wine, bang, you're done, right? And so the next day when I get to work and I'm typing my note, I thought about all the conversations I had the day before. It was all about the food. It wasn't even about the markets. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to put another recipe in the note just because I cook and I'm comfortable in the kitchen. And so I put another recipe in the note. And then the next day I did it again and then did it again and did it again. And so now it's this food and finance note, right? So because I talk about the
Yeah.
markets in the top half and the bottom half, I always give you something to eat. It could be anything. It could be soup. It could be steak. It could be chicken, pork, fish. Could be
Yeah.
pasta. It could be a rice dish, whatever. But I
I
always,
screenshot it.
yeah,
I
yeah. But I always
screenshot
give
it
you
and sent
something
it
to
to my
eat.
wife.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how that happened. And it's funny because then what happened is that these guys would call me up and they say, can you send the note to my wife? Or can you send it to my girlfriend? Or my wife's got 5 girlfriends that want the note. Yeah, okay. So I started adding all these individual names to the note, and I'd send it out with the note. Now it goes out to over 15,000 people that I send it to directly. And then it gets picked up. Yeah, I put it on my Twitter. I put it on my LinkedIn. Bloomberg picks it up. So it goes across the whole Bloomberg network worldwide. So it's really funny how it happened.
So yeah, your family secrets. What was it? You, I was gonna say I remember seeing around Christmas. What was it? You get your
Well, around Christmas, my grandmother always made this cheesecake at Christmas. I call it, Nana's cheesecake. I give you the recipe for that. I give you, around Christmas as an Italian in that grew up in Boston because I'm from Boston, not New York. We would always do the 7 fishes on Christmas Eve, right? You don't have meat yet; it's only fish on Christmas Eve, and so it's a tradition. So every year I give you the 7 fishes recipe. Once it, every day I'll give you a different recipe for the 7 fishes, and I'll throw you in desserts that both grandmothers used to make, and I make it. It becomes personal, right?
right,
But that's part of the story.
right.
Uh, so it's just it's interesting. I enjoy doing it, and people enjoy reading it. And
Yeah,
there's this thing between food and finance, right? Because finance can be so unnerving to people, and food, on the other hand, is so nurturing, right? Everybody needs food, and everybody needs finance, and so there's this yin and yang between the food and finance, which is very, very interesting.
right. Yeah, no, it's one of those once you find your niche, right? Like, and
Right.
there's nobody else doing it, and that's Kenny. Kenny's out there doing it. He's the one.
Right. Right.
And you're like, I remember the first one I made was like I think it was braised pork chops.
Yeah.
And I sent it to my wife. I was like, "Can you go pick up this stuff? I'm gonna try this when I get home." And I don't have a large recipe. I'm a soup and a chili guy.
So here's the problem with me. Because I grew up cooking and I'm very comfortable in the kitchen. So I cook by feel, right? So people say to me, how much salt or how much sugar or how much pepper. I said, I don't know how many people you're cooking for. You're cooking for 2 people, you're cooking for 10 people because it's going to make a difference because you got to make a bigger pot. And, it's twice around with the oil. Maybe it's 3 times around with the oil. I don't really know. So I tell you, here's what's in it. You figure out how many people you're working for, and then taste it as you're going along. You can taste it and adjust it, right? So
Right.
don't ever put if you think you got to put X, just put Y and then taste it, and because you can always add more. Once you put too much,
That's
you ruined it, right?
that's
So
that's the hippie tool belt use.
right,
You can always take more. You can
right,
never take less. And that's you can apply that to pepper. My daughter hates pepper.
right,
My 10-year-old, she hates it. So I always dash a little bit in and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not even gonna taste it because I know she's already gonna complain that it's
right.
too much pepper." So is there pepper in this? Like, well, yeah, it's not vegan for pepper. So
Yeah, it's funny. It is funny. And what you realize is there's a lot of people that are not that comfortable in the kitchen. That maybe they just don't like it, or they don't think they're a good cook, or they don't try it, whatever. Because I get some very interesting questions back from people that suggest to me, wow, this person really isn't comfortable in the kitchen. the way they asked me the question. One day, for instance, I gave a lollipop lamb chop recipe. And so you season the lollipop lamb chops and then you leave them out until you're ready to cook, let them marinate for, 20 minutes. But I said season them on both sides and then cover it with saran wrap and then just leave it on the counter until you're making, the side dish, whatever it was, potatoes or broccoli, whatever it was.
Right.
Okay, now turn your oven on to broil and I said put the lamb chops in the oven. Did I need to tell you to take the saran wrap off the lamb chops, or would you have just done it automatically? Because I
Well,
didn't say. All I said was, now put your oven on broil, take the lamb chops, put them in the oven. I forgot to actually say remove the saran wrap and then put the lamb chops in the oven. I just said put them in the oven, assuming that somebody's going to take the saran wrap off and put them in the oven.
that's the day you don't buy Gorilla Glue stock.
Okay, so the next day I got an email, and the person said to me, "Was I supposed to take the saran wrap?" I go, "You can't." Wrote back up, "You're kidding, right? Tell me you're kidding, because of course you were supposed to." She goes, she goes, "You didn't say it." I go, "Oh my!" I thought to myself, "Oh my God."
Oh my, I'm Pop-Tart now. I'm gonna get sued because I didn't put the instructions on the back of the
Can
box.
you imagine?
Well, I'm
Anyway,
just
whatever. It
yeah, no,
is
I
funny that you get questions like that, and a lot of times people say, "I get 10 people coming over. How do I measure?" I said, when I cook for 10 people, you just I've been doing it for so long. I guess it's just easy, right, for me. Um, and so I have to just walk them through it, but it's
I
fun.
I went down this rabbit hole yesterday because I'm the one who we have ducks and chickens, and so I eat the older duck eggs. The duck eggs don't fly as fast. So when I'm giving them out to people or selling them here or there, I'll give somebody like newer ones. If there's a couple dozen that are getting on the older side, I'll take them as my personal reserve because
Right,
I'll risk it. And like the duck eggs have been showing up like green, and I'm like you open them up, it's not the yolks, it's the whites are like green or yellow, and I'm
yeah,
like they don't smell bad. And I had to go down this whole AI rabbit hole the last couple days to find out why. But because I'm an HVAC technician by trade, it's my job to be like an investigator. And so I got to figure out what's wrong with your furnace. I got to figure out why that water stain is showing up. I've got to figure out this or that. And so I'm going back and forth. And Grok is like, give me some more information. And it was like, it could it be their diet? I'm thinking like, what has changed about their diet? I'm like,
yeah,
the ducks have been living outside more because the weather's warming up, and they've been
right,
drinking out of the non-frozen pond, which is I have to clean. One of my guys who used to work for me, I let him go, and he used to clean the pond once a month, and it hasn't been cleaned in 6 months. And so all of a
right,
sudden it's like algae blooms, duh. But it's like one of those like if you don't know, and it like it wouldn't have occurred to me the algae
right,
blooms had I
right.
not like had that investigator like thinking of all the different little things that just that confidence that gets built in your
Yeah, but I
career.
wonder, does that make the egg no good, or was the egg fine?
The egg was fine.
Yeah,
Yes, it
the
just
egg was fine.
changes the pigment, and as the
The
egg gets
color. Yeah,
older, yeah, as it gets older, it start like whatever like the breakdown as it begins to start to go bad or as it
yeah,
ages is on its life cycle of
yeah.
before you cook it, what'll happen is like the di- the breakdown process will bring out those pigment colors.
So
So
do you eat a duck egg like you eat a chicken egg? You can fry it, make scrambled eggs out of it, all that
yeah,
stuff?
that's what I do. Yeah, they're richer, creamier.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of the people that either get those big muscular guys, like I work with a couple guys that one of them used to be a UFC fighter,
Yeah.
and he loves the duck eggs because they're just like because he'll eat like a dozen eggs a day, and he
Right.
likes the duck eggs better. Um, but then like his wife will want duck eggs because she bakes, and
Right.
it's better for baking.
Are duck eggs more expensive? Because I can't go into my Publix down here and buy duck eggs. I can only buy chicken eggs. Are they more expensive, or they just don't? They're not really retail.
My I don't think they're retail, but my like because my wife will yell at me because I just give eggs away.
Right.
I'm just like, "Here, take the eggs." Now we're in a crisis, and she's like, "You really should be selling them." I'm like, "They don't cost us anymore. They're
Right.
just our hobby. Like, it's just they're the thing in the
Right.
backyard that keeps the fleas and ticks down."
Right.
Like,
You have a
and
lot. Do you produce a lot of eggs?
uh, 2 dozen a day,
Do you
and then
really?
a dozen duck eggs a day.
Do ducks lay eggs as frequently as chickens do every day?
Almost.
Yeah.
So, like, if you get into turkeys, they lay eggs once a week. So we
Yeah.
don't have any turkeys. It's just they're
Right.
just a meat bird. But
Yeah.
the ducks, so the breed that we got are white layers, and they'll lay 290 eggs a year.
Wow.
Where the chickens we got, they're 320 eggs a year. So the chickens are always going to lay substantially more, but there's like less mass to them.
Right.
So like you're getting the same amount of like stuff out of them. Like, I'm
Right.
sure you can find, like, chickens that lay, like, 2 eggs a day for the whole year, but they're
Right.
gonna look like robin eggs.
Right. Right. Right.
And so you're not
Are the duck eggs actually bigger than a chicken egg?
yeah, they're not as big as goose eggs, but
Yeah.
they're like 25 to 40% larger than a chicken egg.
Oh,
So
wow.
you're almost at 1.5 times with them, so it depends. So gotta cull your males. You gotta have
Yeah.
like one male for every like
Right.
4 to 5 females, because otherwise they're like dolphins. They go around in this weird like masculine. They pick one girl, and yeah, it's it's kind of brutal when the neighbors call you and be like, you need to do something. Like then all
Why
the neighbors got
do they make all kinds of noise? Do they start squawking and
it
everything?
just looks weird. So when somebody's walking by and they
Uh,
see it, they're like, "Ooh, yikes!" Because we live in a city, so like we have sidewalks all around our house, and we just have this little
it's
terrarium of ducks and chickens.
we're just walking around the whole yard.
Yeah, yeah, we free range them in the yard. So
I think that's great.
yeah, but it looks odd. So what happened was we had to cull like 10, 12 males.
Yeah.
And you just do it one after another. You just throw them in a bucket, let them flop out, and then we're boiling and defeathering them and gutting
Yeah.
them and everything else that you do. And then so we ended up just once we let them cool, I would saran wrap them, throw them in the freezer, and any one of the neighbors who wanted duck, like I went around, like me and the
Yeah.
kids go around every Easter. We'll put bunny ears on and we'll hand eggs out to people. And
Your neighbors must love you.
yeah, some of them do. They come in, they have a key to the fence. They'll come in
Yeah.
with their grandkids and feed bread and other like scraps
Yeah.
to the chickens, and
Yeah.
so and then we hand out eggs. So it's you
Oh,
gotta
that's cool. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, good good donations of eggs make good neighbors, not just fences. So
Yeah. Right. Right.
the fences help though, because then the chickens don't fly off into their
r-
yards and piss them off.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so if you're getting if I guess I'm gonna transition here. If we're getting into if you're like new to the market, which I would consider myself like a rookie, but I might not be. I still might be more experienced than most. If you're getting into the market, what is your like? I know I've heard it from you 1,000 times, but what is the number one thing for somebody starting out? You get somebody that's my age, maybe.
Right. So here's what you need to just understand as you go in. Uh, you got to start somewhere. Everyone goes, it's too late for you to start. It's never too late to start. That's number one. Number two, you got to understand that there are cycles in the market. The market's going to go up. The market's going to go down, right? Every 2 years, there's typically a 10% drawdown in the market. Every 6 years, there's typically more like a 20 to 25% drawdown in the market, which is kind of where we are today in that 6 year cycle of a drawdown. Now, some of it created by political policy, and some of it just created because the market had gotten ahead of itself. What you really need to understand is, as you start to invest, you got to be committed to do it. You got to do it regularly, whether you do it monthly, you do it quarterly, however you do it. You need to do it. You need to make sure you kind of design and build a plan. It's great to have a trading account where you want to take a shot and you want to buy, these meme type stocks or these micro cap stocks that you think are going to be the next winner. That's great. That should be over here in one account. But if you're trying to create an account that you want to be a long-term investment account that's actually going to help you generate wealth and create wealth, then you have to do it over here in a separate account. They should be two separate accounts. Don't mix them. That's the first thing I'd say, right? Because
Okay.
this one over here is going to be very, very volatile. And this one over here, you want to be more stable, but you want it to grow. And so you have to just be committed. So however you do it, right? You do it weekly, monthly. And listen, here's the other thing. You could do it with as much as $50 a week or $50 a month. You have to start somewhere. That's, I think, the biggest thing for people to understand. It doesn't make a difference. You don't need $100,000 to get started. Absolutely not. And even more today than when I was, 20 years ago when I first started, where you couldn't buy fractional shares. Today, you can actually buy fractional shares. So you
Right.
can do it with $50. If you want to buy $50 worth of Apple, you can do that. When I was, 20 years ago, you couldn't buy a fractional share of Apple. Today, you can do that. So there's absolutely no reason for people to say, I can't. Yes, you can, but you have to have a plan. So the first thing you should do is, decide you're going to put X amount of dollars away on the frequency you're going to do it. And then start to do a little bit of research, right? Talk to people, read the Wall Street Journal, read the Barron's, listen to people, read my Substack, listen to people that are in the industry that you respect and trust, and then start to build a portfolio of names that you're going to own for the long term. And those are going to be The names that I'm going to tell you that you all know, they're the biggest names in the different industries that they represent. So it's Apple, it's Amazon, it's IBM, it's Johnson and Johnson, it's Coca-Cola, Microsoft, right? It's ExxonMobil. It's all names like that. First of all, because they're the biggest names in each one of their industries, right? So they've got a history of performance. They've got a history of dividends. Most of them raise their dividend year in and year out. And so when you sign up, when you do this, you want to also make sure that you sign up automatically for automatic dividend reinvestment. Because when they pay their dividend every quarter, you don't want the cash. You want more of that stock that you're buying. That's also how you're going to build your wealth, and you build it over time. And if
Because
you
you don't
start
want
out
it
with,
in cash. Right. Because
huh?
if you're taking it back in cash, then you're defeating the purpose.
Well, certainly if your age, you don't need it in cash because you have another job that's providing your living and your income and your quality of life. You want this cash to continue to be put to work. Now, when
Right.
you turn to be 65 or 70, and now it's a different story, then that's when people draw on the dividend income to help, assist their Social Security, assist their pension, whatever it is. Some people never draw on it because, they've been so successful they don't need it, whatever. But for the most part, that's what you want to have in your mind, right? That's how you want it to build. And you should completely take advantage of ups and downs and dollar cost averaging. And when we have a drawdown like this, I think the funniest thing to me is when you have a drawdown in the market and names like Apple, trade off 15 or 18%, and Nvidia is down 30%, and Microsoft is down 22%. People panic and go, oh my God, I have to sell my Microsoft. I'm going to lose all this money. Remember, you never lose money unless you make the sale and then lose the money, right? If Microsoft was trading at $400, last week, and it's trading at $350 today, so yes, it's down $50, correct, but you haven't sold it yet, so you really haven't lost the money. On paper, you've lost the money, but you haven't actually physically lost it. If you sell the Microsoft at $350, then you've lost the money. Then you've actually made a sale and you've taken yourself out of the game and you lost the money.
And
Now,
then when it goes back up,
when it goes back up, then you're scrambling to get back in. Oh my God, I got to buy Microsoft again. So I always use the analogy, and it's always very funny because a lot of people can certainly relate to it. When Bloomingdale's has a sale and they put dresses on sale for down 30%, women go flying in the store and they buy 3 of them because how can they leave them on the shelf? They're on sale for 30% off. Take that same psychology, especially if you're buying Johnson and Johnson, Eli Lilly, Merck, GE Vernova, Bank America, JP Morgan, ExxonMobil. Use that same mentality. And when the stock is drawn down, when it goes on sale, and it's a good quality name, and the story has not changed for that particular company, you take that as an opportunity because the same amount of money is going to buy more of that stock because the stock is a lower price, right? That's the point about dollar cost averaging. And look, when the market's at its high, that same amount of money is clearly going to buy less of that stock. That's clear, but that's why you have to take advantage of the cycle, right? And not run away when the market's selling. Especially, look, if you're 30 or 40 or even 50, this latest drawdown that we're having right now should absolutely be getting you excited versus not excited because you've got still 30, 20, 30, or 40 years to go until you even need this money if it's long-term money, right? If you're look, I'm 64. I'm okay. I'm good. But I may only have another 10 years to live. Maybe I get 15 years to live. I don't know. But I'm closer to the end than you. So I might be a little bit more cautious, but that's going to be reflected in my portfolio. I'm not going to be so far out on the risk scale. You guys that are 20 and 30 and 40 years old, you should be, in terms of the risk scale and in terms of names that you own, you should be a little bit further out on that risk scale because that's how that money is going to work for you. And as you get older, then you draw down the risk. And then you go more into, dividend paying stocks, which are typically not volatile. They're not sexy. They don't, they're not going to be up 150%.
right. I
But they're
think you
going to
mentioned
be
communications in the past, correct? Like
communications is actually it's down the communications sector. And look, you can buy all these stocks in an ETF, right? Which you'll have like a mutual fund, you'll have a combination of stocks, or you can buy individual names if you want, right? I would start when you're first starting out, I would buy ETFs versus individual names. Because you don't have enough money. If you're just starting out, you want to have exposure. So you want to buy the ETF, right? The ETF is just like a mutual fund you buy, but you can only, when you buy, you can't trade it like a stock. When you put in an order to buy something in a mutual fund, you get the end of day price. If you want to sell it, a month later, you're going to get the end of day price. And an ETF is like a stock. It's designed like a mutual fund because there might be 50 stocks in it, but it trades like a stock all day long. So you can buy it at 10 o'clock in the morning if you want to. You can sell it at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not telling you to do that, but what I'm saying to you, it's a good way to
Don't day
give you,
trade ETFs.
right. Don't day trade ETFs, but it's a good way to give you exposure to a range of stocks in a particular sector. So if the consumer staples sector would have names in it like Procter and Gamble. Wait, hold on. Okay, Procter and Gamble, Coca-Cola, Johnson and Johnson, Philip Morris, Costco. Those would be all names kind of in that consumer staples section, right? Because consumer staples are things that you actually need every day. You need food, you need soap, you need deodorants, you need, toilet paper. Those are all consumer staple type names versus consumer discretionary. Those are things that you want, not that you need. So it might be a new outfit. So consumer discretionary would be like Bloomingdale's or JW Nordstrom's or Tiffany's. Those are all discretionary items that if you have extra money that you want to go out and buy something, that falls under that sector. But consumer staples are stuff that you need every day to run for your family.
They're going to be less volatile in the market
it's
because they're recession proof almost.
Right. They're called the defense. They're called defensive names because whether the market's going up or down, whether the economy's booming or busting, you still need to buy that stuff. And so they're staples in your life. And so those stocks tend to be, look, they're not sexy. There's nothing sexy about, Procter & Gamble or Coca-Cola. There's nothing sexy about them, but they're good dividend payers. Right. They're good dividend payers, and they offer stability for your portfolio.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying when I was a kid, my dad always told me to invest in a liquor store because they're recession proof. And it's one of those things. And they're never sexy. You ever go to a liquor store? Like there might be a nice bottle of wine, but it's always completely detracted by the homeless guy out front. Right?
100%. 100%.
So, all right. So somebody's now. If you're somebody like me, would you throw it into? I know this is maybe getting into more of a tax guy situation,
Yeah.
and maybe you might not want to speak on it. But if you're somebody like me, like okay, you have your mad money account as you call it, right? The day trading, whatever you just want to blow some money,
Right.
and then there's the long term investment. When you're doing a long term investment, you create just a cash account, or would you recommend that people just kind of like look through the options, talk with their accountant, and pick maybe like a Roth or a standard IRA? Or
Well, you should always have a tax advantage long-term investment account, right? So that means it's an IRA, it's a Roth, it's a 401k, 100%. Because then if it's a tax advantage investment account, between now and the time you take it out, you're not getting a dividend statement at the end of the year. You're not getting a capital gains or capital losses statement. You can trade it in and out without paying any taxes because it's tax advantage. You can have that. You can also have a straight investment account, right? Because you have extra money. Maybe you got more money than because there are limits to what you can put in your Roth IRA every year. So,
sure.
if you hit the limit there, I think this year it's $8,500 in an IRA, whether it's Roth or a regular IRA. I think it's $8,500. It changes every year. But if you have more than that 8,500, then you want to put it in an investment account, then you have to open up a separate regular investment, a brokerage account, which will produce at the end of the year, you'll get a dividend statement. Whether you reinvested that stock or not, that dividend or not, you did receive it. So you will get a statement for the dividends you received. And if you traded in that account and you've got a capital gain or a capital loss, you'll also get that statement. So that you will then at the end of the year have to give it to your accountant to make sure that that's all incorporated.
That you're in compliance,
yeah.
right?
And
yeah.
I'm not a tax, I'm not an accountant. So I'm just telling you that's what you'd need to do.
This is where all the industries overlap, right?
Correct. But in your Roth and your regular IRA or your 401k, you're not going to get an end of year statement. There's no tax consequences at all. So that should be your first investment account. Should be a tax advantage investment account. Look, for a lot of people out there that if you're not employed or you've got a 401k in your current employer, you can still have your own individual IRA or Roth IRA. So you can put money away at work and you can put money away on the side that's your own. It's both tax advantage. And so I would always say to people, you should try to take as much advantage of that, especially when you're young, as you can. Now I understand you're building a family, you got to buy a house, I understand that. Trust me, I was there, I get it.
Diapers and bottles
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
I get it. So I understand the strains on a young family. But at some point, here's always the lesson. Just like, every month you're going to get an electric bill, you got to pay the utility company, and every month you're going to get a heating bill. Every month you should send yourself a bill, like a savings bill, whether it's $50 or $100 or $1,000, whatever it is. Every month you should make sure that you, just like you pay the utility company, you should pay yourself, and you should pay yourself in that savings account, right? In that investment account. Now,
And
uh,
then just readjust it. Maybe
and
just look at your budgeting and say, hey,
but
sometimes setting up an auto draft is an
correct, an
easy way
auto
for
draft,
people.
right? Now, I understand first what you have to set up is you have to set up a savings account for like an emergency. I get that as well. So after you have your savings account that you'd have for an emergency, I don't know, maybe there's $4,000 or $5,000 in a savings account that just sits there in the event of an emergency. But once you start to once you get there and you're comfortable, then you should start to build wealth, and it takes time, but time is on your side as a 20 or 30-year-old,
Right.
and you'll build wealth.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. What I notice that most people do is they don't save, and I think that setting up those baby steps, even if just setting up an
Right,
auto draft that comes out of the, even just you can set it up with your employer too. You go in and you just
right,
say, hey, listen, I want my direct deposit. I want $50. You can set up a percentage or a set number and just have it
yeah,
go to a separate account. And all these accounts have routing numbers and account
right.
numbers
Right.
and
And if you're at work and you're having a 401k, out of your, you should absolutely be deducting money to put in your 401k, because it reduces your income. So at the end of the year, you've got a tax benefit because, if you made $100,000 that year, but you put $10,000 into the IRA, your reported income is really only 90,000. So you're only going to get taxed on 90, not the 100,
right, right, yeah,
right?
of course, yeah, yeah.
That you put in the 401k, you're only going to get taxed on the net amount. So that ends up giving you a tax benefit as well. Now, look, I
Right.
understand maybe 10% is a lot. Okay, I'm using it as an example, but I'm just telling you that any money that you take from your work and you put it into the company sponsored 401k is to your benefit.
Right. It's not just yeah, 'cause some people look at it like, "Oh, it's not FICA. It's not going to somebody else's
Right.
pocket. It's not going to something that's getting scattered out throughout the government. It's going into your pocket in the future."
Right. So here's the other thing I'd say about people also that work at public companies that trade on the New York Stock Exchange, that may get part of their compensation as well in their own company stock. So you're putting money away in a 401k, but then maybe you're getting a bonus, and part of it is stock and part of it is cash. Okay, that's great because now you're getting stock in the company you work for. But remember, you also work for that company. So while you're getting stock in that company, it's great. And a lot of them have stock buy plans for employees. Well, they'll give you a 15% discount to buy their stock on a quarterly basis. If it's a great company, you should absolutely do it because they're giving you 15% off. They're giving you a discount to buy the stock. But at some point, you also have to sit back and realize, what's my exposure now? Because maybe now you're overweight that stock in your portfolio. You work there, don't forget, you're employed there, and now you have a lot of stock from that company. So at some point, it does make sense to liquidate some of that stock and re-diversify it into something else, because you don't
If
want
you
to
lose
get
your job and the
if you
company
lose
goes
your
under.
job or the company goes bust, not only did you lose your job, but your stock becomes worthless. So,
Right.
and there's plenty. Look, Enron, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, all those companies. That's exactly what happened, right? People that worked at Enron, I'll never forget it when Enron went crazy. I was working on the New York Stock Exchange. It was just nuts. But Enron was an energy company down in Texas.
Oh, I know. He was my dad always would reference Ken
Yeah,
Lay.
yeah,
He
yeah.
he
It
was
was
like he's like he's like never rob a liquor store. He's like if you're gonna be a criminal, be that guy
right,
because
right.
not that it's
Enron was at one point. Enron was like the way we talk about Nvidia today, the excitement around it. Enron was that stock in the 1980s. Everyone goes, "Oh my God, you have to own Enron, Enron, Enron." And what happened was it ended up really being a Ponzi scheme. And when it blew up, it took all those people out, and all those people that worked there that thought it was a great place, that had all their wealth invested in Enron because they used to get stock as compensation, and they vowed, "I'm never selling my Enron. I'm never selling my Enron." Well, okay, then the stock blew up, and now you lost everything. And so I
Right.
would say to you, take advantage of the discount that you can buy the stock, but then you're going to get stock as also part of your compensation. At some point, you want to start to look and say, okay, let me just peel back some of it, not all of it necessarily, some of it, and take that money and re-diversify it somewhere else. Just because, again, you work there, you have a lot of exposure to that one company.
Right. And I see it from the company's perspective. Like, why wouldn't you want to have your
100
employees own stock? Because now they feel more vested into doing a better job.
correct.
Because
100%.
it's because Price's principle plays a lot into this. Do you ever? I believe it's Price's principle. That like just the workload of people, right? So you might have like 50% of the work of 10 people is being performed by like 3 people, and then when you get to 100 people, you have like 50% of the work is being done by 10 people. So
Right.
where it was like 30%, like the growth of productive people stays linear,
Yeah.
while the growth of unproductive people exponentially grows. So
Right.
like is there ever an advantage to investing in a smaller organization over a larger one? Obviously, you say larger ones are safety nets, but like does that
Well,
principle of like mass layoffs and
I,
slack?
I had never thought about it that way. But look, even if you get mass layoffs at a place like Johnson and Johnson, it's still Johnson and Johnson. It's not going out of business. But that might be part of the cycle too, right? Just
Right.
happens, and it happens across a range of industries. Um,
They get too
uh,
big and they got to cut
they
the
get too
fat. It's
big
like
and they got to cut the fat. It's like anything, right? It's like look at your own family budget. Sometimes you just get it just gets out of control, and you say, whoa, 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 we got to pull back. You got to start.
the
You got to
vacation
start.
fund is we're
Right,
going on vacations
right,
way too much. We need
right.
to be able to buy groceries.
Right. Or you're just spending money on stuff you don't necessarily should be spending money on. Look, I think the biggest thing is, and I'm guilty. And I actually, after this conversation, I should go and look. These subscription things, they hit you up. Oh, it's only $9.99 a month. Well, suddenly you got 10 of them and you're spending $100 a month on subscriptions that you don't even really use every once in a while, right? You just get drawn in and you do it. And then next thing you know, you're getting
Sta-
hit with subscription. You don't even realize you're getting
Stamps.com.
hit with it. Right.
Stamps.com is my like I've been paying for stamps.com
Yeah.
and I've probably sent like 10 letters, but
100%. And so you don't even realize you're spending the 100 or 200 or $300 a month on these subscriptions that are only $9.99 or $12.99. It just you get caught up, and so you end up having to go back and say, okay, right?
yeah.
And
When was
it's
the
a
last
health,
time we
it's a
watched HBO
healthy
Max?
right, but it's a healthy exercise to do. And so think about that just on the corporate level. Sometimes they get big and fat, and they gotta trim and cut the
They got to
fat.
lean down, they got to shed their skin, they got
And
to
look, and you may start to see that actually in this current environment that we're in. You may start to see where earnings season just started on Friday, right? The big banks reported, J.P. Morgan, and which blew it out of the water, crushed it on every level. By the way, I own J.P. Morgan. I love J.P. Morgan. I love Jamie Dimon. J.P. Morgan is a name you should own if you're going to own a bank stock, one way or the other. What you're going to start to hear over the next month as these companies all report is what their forward guidance is. Some are even choosing not to give forward guidance right now because they say the economic environment is so unstable that they don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs, with the economy. So a lot of companies are now opting to not give guidance, which is, in my view, negative. Right? Would be a reason to be a little bit negative. But you also
it's
may see people announce, look, we've gotten too fat. We don't know what the environment's going to look like. And so they're going to start announcing layoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Um, but if it's a
it's
name,
bad for the employee, but it's good for the company.
correct. And then it's ultimately, yeah, I hate to say it like that, but it is ultimately good for investors because once again, they're cutting the fat out, right? They're trying to drill it down to the core again. And so while it's odd because you're right, people lose their jobs and it's a negative, but as an investor, it's actually a positive.
Right, right. And that's and I guess that kind of gets into the next point that like some people are afraid nowadays to invest in the market. And like you're saying, people companies aren't giving this forward guidance. And it's kind of like how the markets have been in this weird turmoil because there was almost zero guidance from political things like what's going on with the tariffs, and the markets have been going all over the place.
Right.
And then finally, when they leveled out with a plan, like, oh, we're just attacking China. Now all of a sudden the markets have calmed down. They've resumed back to where they were.
So listen, you get one. All you need is one positive headline. And it may be this weekend because you got Japan in town, you got the EU is coming to town to see the president. You get one positive headline tomorrow or Monday morning, and this market is going to take off. Right now, negative, still negative against China. But look, that's a whole China. The China trade situation with the world is a whole separate issue in and of itself.
Right.
So that's going to continue to be an issue. But you get one positive headline from one of these 75 countries that's coming to DC to make a deal, and this market's just going to take off again. Which is why I say in my notes, you have to get comfortable with sometimes being a little uncomfortable, right? The market's under stress. Oh my God, you get agitated. You go, I don't know what to do. You got to get comfortable with being a little uncomfortable. Again, assuming you own high quality names in your portfolio, then you have nothing over the long term to worry about. But if you own a bunch of micro cap and nano cap stocks, then you better go get the Excedrin out because you're going to have a real bad headache.
Right. And that's what I noticed too is it seems to be like most of the people you see doing all these protests recently are
Yeah.
also the people that are investing by their gut. And they see
Correct.
the stock plummet and they're emotionally charged and they just grab a picket sign and they head out there instead of sitting at home and saying it'll come back.
Right. Well, they're blaming everybody else. And look at all the money I lost. So blah, blah. Dude, you got to make sure you look at your own account. What did you invest in? What are you in? Okay, great. You're right. Apple's down 20%. You're right. Apple makes $1 billion every 3 months. Think about that for 1 minute. $100 billion every 3 months is what Apple makes. Is Apple going anywhere? Is there any reason to get distressed over
Right.
Apple's down
Because they're
20%?
still positive. Right.
It's still positive because look at this. Here's what you also have to understand. When big asset managers need to raise money because their individual investors need money. Listen, there are people that are my age and are now retired that draw on these accounts every month. The company's got to send them 10 or 15 or $20,000 a month for them to live on because that's kind of the whole point of setting up the investment account. When you get older, then you draw this money down, right? So when you think about all the people that might call BlackRock or Fidelity every month and say, I need my $10,000 a month. Well, multiply that by X amount of people. It's actually a lot of money, right? And so when these asset managers need to do that, or there's a drawdown in the market and they're just reallocating, they sell names like Apple because they can, because it's a big mega cap name that you can raise a lot of money very quickly, right? And so that's where you get the drawdowns in very solid names, which doesn't mean at all that there's something wrong with the company. It just means that they're taking advantage and they're reallocating and they got to pay some money out. They're going to reallocate.
And then
Apple
it, then
is
it
not a
eventually
name.
floats back up.
Loads back up. Apple is not a name. Look, I'm going to die with my Apple, right? I just keep buying more Apple and I keep reinvesting the dividends. I'm going to die with my Apple because I think it's a name that I'll pass on and pass on and pass on.
Right. Okay. That's I think that's a big thing that a lot of people I know you say you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Me and the kids take jujitsu, and that's like one of the number one things because you're grappling with somebody and you're going to feel uncomfortable as you try to maneuver through this.
Right.
But you have to be comfortable, you have to adapt, you have to adjust with changes. I mean, it's a similar dance to a conversation, to investing in the market.
Correct.
It's and then what's the other classic Kenny Polcari line that there is it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Time in the market. That's correct. And that's exactly right. People that try to, they try to pick the tops and the bottoms. They're going to sell at the top. They're going to buy it again at the bottom. Guess what? You waste a lot of time. You waste a lot of energy when you do that, right? If you're a trader, look, if you're a day trader, that's all you do is you try to time the market because you want to get in, you want to get out, you want to get in, you want all day long. You're in, out, you're in, out, you're in and out. But if you're a long-term investor, you don't want to do that at all. You just want to be consistent, right? It's the time that you're in the market that's going to create long-term generational wealth for you.
If you see that it's down, you should invest now, but don't go out of your way to wait for a downturn.
That's right. Keep it consistent. That's the most important thing is consistency look, you can say that about anything, right? You want to be a good golfer, you got to be consistent. You want to be a good tennis player, you got to be consistent. You got to do it every day or every week or whatever you do, right? If you're going to
Right.
be better at something, you got to do it. You want to be a better investor, you got to be in the game. You can't say one day I'm in, next day I'm out. Oh my God, I got to sell everything. Oh my God, I got to buy everything, right? I had, especially over this drawdown, it's funny because listen, everyone reacts differently, right? And so I get it. But I have a client who got immediately nervous, when the market started to come under pressure and I'm going to lose all my money. First of all, you're not going to lose all your money. Let's just get that straight. Because while stocks may be under pressure, his bond part of the portfolio is surging because as stocks came down, bonds went up. So there's a balance there, right? He might have lost some money here, but he gained money there. So net, his account is not necessarily down 20%. because the bonds are up, right? His alternative investments offer stability to his account. So I have to, I have these conversations. I say, okay, let's look at the account. And so we'll pull up the account. I'll go over with them. Okay, yes, your equities are down. They're down, but you're still well ahead from when you first came in. Your account is still up X over your original entry point, right? So if they came in with $1 million and the account is now worth $2 million, you're up $1 million. You're up 100%. So if the market sells off 20%, your account goes down to $1.8 million, you didn't lose your money, right? You lost value, but unless you make that sale, you didn't lose money. And then stay tight and the market will come up. And so I spend a lot of time having those conversations with people
trying
and
to calm them down.
They get nervous. I get it. Legitimately, they get nervous. But that's part of my role, is to say, look, you're okay. Here's what you're invested in. Here's why this is good. Here's why we're going to take more advantage, right? You don't own, we don't, at Slatestone Wealth, when people don't own crap, we own the biggest names. We do all our due diligence. We create all our own portfolios. We make them bespoke to the person we're talking to. If I have a conversation with you, Kevin, it's going to be very different because, you're 35 years old versus a conversation with
actually 37 today.
Okay. Happy birthday. How do you like that?
Yeah.
My birthday was a couple of weeks ago. I was 64. But
now you're a Beatles song.
But the conversation between a 60-year-old versus a 30-year-old is going to be very different.
Sure.
And so I spend a lot of time having that conversation, and it's fine. Because I enjoy doing it, and I've been in it long enough.
And helping people transition, right? You want to transition them into more less sexy stocks
as they get older.
As they get older,
right? They want to pull back on the risk. That's all. Doesn't mean they're selling everything.
No, where are you on Bitcoin? I've done zero investment in Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin similar to the stock market? I mean, I guess it's still a financial asset.
Right, but it's very volatile, right? So if you're going to go into Bitcoin, you have to know you're going in for volatility, right? Now,
don't let it touch your IRA.
Right, but I own 3% of my portfolios in Bitcoin. That's it. No more. I wouldn't put any more. Me personally, there are people that have 100% of their money in Bitcoin. While I think it's okay if that's what you want to do, I think it's crazy, but that's me, right? So I have a 3% position in Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes to zero, I'm not going to get slaughtered. I've only got 3% of my portfolio in there, right?
Right, and I think that's what a lot of people need to understand is everything is risk.
Correct.
You risk going to work every day, and then eventually one day you don't have a job. But now you have a mortgage to pay for, all these other things. I mean, you're taking a risk just by breathing. You take a risk getting in your car every morning.
Right.
I think
right. 100%. But so when you design your portfolio in Bitcoin specifically, do I think people should own Bitcoin? I think you should have some exposure. Should you own, Ethereum? Yes, I own 3 of them. I own Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. I don't own Solana and all the other ones and the Donald Trump coin and all that stuff. I don't own any of that. I own the 3, and Bitcoin's out of the 3. Bitcoin's the biggest position out of them all. But I don't let it get out of control. And when I say I own 3%, that's 3% amongst those three assets that I just named.
You own 30 or 3%? You own 3% total.
3%.
Okay,
I thought you said total portfolio.
I thought you said 30. Okay.
No. 3% of my total portfolio.
I was just saying, man, your rest of your portfolio
No, not me, but I'm 64. Listen, if you want to own 30%, you're much younger than me. I'd say, okay, I don't think it's a smart idea, but you're much younger than I am. I can't afford to do that because I'm way closer to the end than you. But like anything, like a lot of our portfolios, and don't forget, a lot of our portfolios, the demographic for us is anywhere from the 50 to up group. Now, do I have clients that are 30 and 40? Yes. But the bulk of our demographic is 50 and up, people that are really preparing for, the later stages of their life. And so their portfolios reflect that. And so there's fixed income in there, there's alternative investments there, and then there's a stock portfolio. But even in the individual names that we buy for them, there's not a position that's bigger than 3.5% in any one name. There's not. So it's 3% of NVIDIA, 3% of Johnson, the value of the portfolio. If they're putting 50% of the portfolio into stocks, then of that 50%, all the stocks in there, it's going to be, the max is going to be 3%. Some will be 2%, some will be 3%, maybe 3.5% max.
And you just treat the entire category of Bitcoin like it's an individual stock.
Correct. I actually treat Bitcoin as if I put it kind of in the alternative space, right? Because it's not really a stock, it's not a bond, it is a financial asset, but I don't include it in your equity part of your of your portfolio. Equities are equities. Bitcoin is not an equity; it's an asset, but it's I don't count it as an equity. So I
Right.
have it.
And
It's
then
kind of its separate category.
right. And then it's like what's the Robert Kiyosaki phrase? The government can't print cattle, so I own cow farms as well. That's the it's another investment. It's a good
Right.
spot. It's not the stock market, it's not a
Well,
bond, it's not
well,
Bitcoin.
that falls
It's
under alternative, right? That's an
right.
alternative. It's not. That's right. It's not a stock. You can't buy it and sell it every day like you can a stock. You're in it for the. When you're in it, it becomes illiquid. You own it, but you can't just sell it. At a moment's notice, right?
Right. That's
Um,
why Bill Gates is gonna have trouble getting out of all the farmland that he owns.
well, if he's getting out of it, I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
But I'm just afraid. I just don't want, because I don't want him to sell it in block to a place like China, which he would probably do because what does he care,
Right,
right?
exactly. Well,
That's
yeah,
a whole nother conversation.
that is the issue between so, like, I read, Vivek Ramaswamy's book, right? And he talks about how great capitalism is, but it's not the end all be all.
Right,
It's not the like, there are flaws with capitalism, and you can't, like you don't use capitalism to deal with your grandmother.
right,
You use it and it has a space, but at the same time, like, it's also not the moral compass of society. So
right,
always knowing that it has a place like a tool. You can't take your hammer with you everywhere. If you take your hammer with you from a job site to an argument, like, it becomes a very
right.
moral imperative type of situation. And
Yeah,
so, like, where capitalism is great because you can buy all this farmland and then you're chasing the dollar. Sometimes you chase the dollar into a point that you might do doing something that's against your gut beliefs in other areas, like selling all your farmland to China and letting
right,
China kind of dismantle and gut your country.
right.
So, like,
Right, but you see, there's a catch there, right? Because at some point everything's for sale at a price. Somebody comes and bids you a stupid number for your house, a really stupid number. You're going to say to your wife, "Pack up, we're out," right? Just
right,
because such a stupid number. You don't care who bought it. All you know is that somebody gave you a stupid number for your
right.
house,
Oh yeah, of
right?
course.
And you take it, and it could have been the worst decision you made because the person that bought your house is not the person you necessarily want to buy your house. It's the same situation in this farmland.
Sure. Yeah, they turn yeah,
China
they
comes in and says to Bill Gates, we're going to pay you $500 billion for all this farmland. Great, sold to you. I'll take the 500 billion, right?
right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, it's yeah, it would be dumb for him not to,
Right,
but it's bad
right.
for the
It
U.S.
correct.
And
It's
I'm a
great for him, but bad for the rest of us.
and so I'm a little government guy. So I also see, like, how can you stop Bill Gates from doing something like that? But
Right.
at the same time, I don't want to give the government that kind of arm to be able to get their hands involved in anything.
Well, okay. So I'm in the camp that you don't want to stop him from doing it, but you should be able to stop him from doing it if it's negative, like having China buy that block of
Right.
land is a negative as far as I'm concerned. It's almost a national security issue,
Sure.
right? So that's where I draw the line. I said, Bill, it's great, you can't do it. Find a U.S. buyer,
Find a
right?
US buyer. Right. Like TikTok.
Right.
Right.
You
They
can't, you
were
can't, it becomes a national security. In my mind, it becomes a national security. The same way, look, the fact that we make all our drugs in China and India is mind-boggling to me. The way that this country allowed that to happen, that we're dependent on India and China, which by the way are emerging market countries, to produce our medicines,
right.
our medicines. It's crazy to me that in my view, that's a huge national security issue.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if they've got like Wuhan viral,
100%.
if they can take that and they can just mix a little bit of that in a pill and then distribute it across the
Yep.
United States in aspirin,
Right.
we're done.
That's it. We're
We're done.
done.
Everybody
We are
just got COVID.
100%
You
done.
know?
Which is why it's confusing to me that we as a nation have allowed that to happen. I
Right.
don't know. It's nuts to me. But maybe, in fact, now it's going to change. Maybe Trump is right. Maybe he's going to bring manufacturing back to this country. Is it a little bit more expensive? Yeah, but guess what? Americans have jobs. We're manufacturing in this country, and it becomes a national security issue. Look, I'm not arguing politics one way or the other. I'm just saying think about that kind of manufacturing process. The fact that we let India and China make all our medicines and we're
Right.
dependent upon them for our medicine. Look, I have cancer right now, right? So I'm on a lot of medicines. And the thought that these medicines are coming from a third world country or an emerging market country is a little
Right.
bit unnerving to me.
Right. And the fact that they don't have your best interest at heart.
Correct.
Like,
100%.
right, like when what is it? TikTok. They came through and they were like they were like, "Well, find a US buyer." And there were people offering to buy them at like market rate. and
Right.
they were like, "No, we'd rather shut it down," which lets you know that they're not in it for the money. They're in it
Right.
because it was a tool to
Right.
deceive the
T-
US. And to me, that is a national security issue. That is a big issue. And it's like,
Listen, think about all the semiconductor parts that are now in automobiles that come out of China, right?
right.
Just think about this for 1 minute. Like they did. Remember what the Israelis did to either the Houthis or Hamas when they blew up all their cell phones,
The
right?
beepers.
Because they had
Yeah.
the chip in them and they could control it, and then boom, they blew them all up and they killed all those people.
Right.
Think
Yeah.
about that for 1 minute. All these semiconductors that are in our cars, and suddenly China goes, press a little button, all these
And
cars blow up.
every military Humvee aircraft falls out of the sky.
Unbelievable to me that
Right.
you know that no that that
Because
we're
if we're
you and I are talking about this and nobody seems to be concerned about it. Like it's
right.
crazy to me.
Well, yeah, and especially like so I walk into people's houses all the time and they don't know the difference between a furnace, a boiler, an air conditioner. Oh, that's my air conditioning unit. Like it's also your heat and
Right.
or your boiler also runs your potable water for taking a shower. They don't
Right.
understand heat water and shower water. And so it's
Right.
like if you're not an expert in the field, like how can you know if somebody sabotages something, right? Like and
That's right.
I've seen and we usually try to run these people out of our market is like when somebody comes in and they pretend to know what they're doing and then they damage something in someone's heater and they become very nefarious and you're like no 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 not going to stand. Well, if you don't know anything about if you're just Joe homeowner, you're liable to fall for that exploding chip because
100%.
the US doesn't we don't have that many people that know enough to look for crap like that when we're getting these chips and
Right.
semiconductors from China. So it's
Right.
one of those like if we're manufacturing them here, we could have our own internal inspectors going through and being like, "Hey, this is a military operation. All this stuff needs to be looked at."
Right.
And
It was like those televisions that were coming from China that they had the built-in camera in them. All these brand new televisions have built-in cameras in them. So
oh sure.
people do right. And so and so you turn your TV on and the camera's automatically on. You don't even realize it's on, and it's watching everything you do. Right.
Right.
Where's that data going? And why is a TV watching everything I do anyway?
Right, yeah, unless you're gonna use it for a Zoom call or whatever, and
Exactly.
I get it,
100%.
but people still sell those little things for your camera that goes
Yeah,
over the
that's
top.
right. You can put it over the top. Correct.
And because you never know, somebody could be hacking in on the back end where your computer doesn't tell you that
Yeah,
your camera's recording because it's plugged in, it
right.
can be fed anywhere.
Correct. And so listen, the same with your phone. Let's be honest. That you and I are talking about, you and I might be talking about a new car coming out. Next thing I know, there's an ad on my phone showing me exactly that new car that I just talked
Yeah,
about.
and isn't that funny? I always
Well, it's a little bit unnerving to me, right? That
right.
happens.
You
But the
you
phone
have a
is listening to
conversation
everything you do.
right, and
Everything you do.
they put it in an algorithm, and then that algorithm runs it through AI, and
Right.
there's your artificial intelligence doing the work of maybe not somebody nefarious, but just somebody who's trying to chase that dollar.
No, but I'll tell you something. You said at the very beginning, Grok. If people out there are using AI and they haven't tried Grok, Grok is unbelievable. Right?
That's the one I use for everything.
Grok is a Twitter, right? It's an Elon
The
Musk
X, yeah.
product. It's you can get it separate, or you can get it if you have a Twitter account. It's built into your Twitter account. I think Grok. Listen, I was using ChatGPT. I think Grok is better than ChatGPT, and I'm sure next week there's going to be another one, whatever. But Grok is unbelievable. I was having a conversation with it yesterday about the PPI report. So I was asking a question about the PPI, and it gave me an answer. And then I just pivoted. I pivoted to a stock. I forget which one it was. I think it might have been J.P. Morgan because J.P. Morgan earnings came out yesterday, and it said to me, "Do you want?" It said to me, "Do you want to talk about J.P. Morgan in relation to the PPI question you just asked me, or is it a separate question you're asking me?" It was unbelievable the response that it gave me.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't like, I had the conversation about duck eggs with
Right,
it, and it
right,
was giving me, like, check dietary issues.
right.
Is there a smell? I'm answering some of its questions, and then it's helping me refine it and helping me do my investigation.
It is unbelievable. It
There
really is.
there are
But
certain other tools that you have to incorporate, right? Like,
yeah,
if you're using like, "Hey, Grok, help me do this."
right,
Like, I've been trying to write a song, and Grok helped me kinda fine tune I don't write songs all the time, so I
right,
don't you know, what would be better for the hook versus the bridge versus this or that, and they
right.
go through all these different things and you look at it and you're like um Like, okay, so help me assemble it because like I come to Kenny Polcari and I say, "Hey, what is the formula?" Well, I wouldn't invest more than 3%. Like, you know the formula. No more than
Right.
3% in one stock, no more than 3% into Bitcoin. And those are certain like parameters. Well, they're you don't always have to follow those parameters with writing a song,
Right.
but Grok knew it more than I did and was able
Right.
to walk me through it. Now, Grok is limited. Grok can't help me turn it into sheet music. It can't help me come up with a beat. It can't
Not
help me do
yet.
a
Not yet.
it can't yet, but there's other tools out there.
100%. And by the way, like when we talked about investing in the 3% rule, that's me. That's how we do it. Grok will say to you, or some of them will say to you, 3% is the number. But ultimately, you're going to do what you want to do, right? You don't have
Sure.
to. That might be kind of the standard rule, but you're going to say, screw it. I'm only 30 years old. I want to put all my money in Bitcoin. No one's going
Right.
to stop you.
Not all
You
songs
can,
have a bridge.
that's right. You can certainly do that, but it's a matter of knowing what your risk is, right? And here's
Right.
the other thing that people should understand, just so, unless you're talking to an advisor, like everyone that comes in, everyone that we manage money for, the first thing we do is we give them this risk assessment, right? It takes you 10 minutes to fill it out, but it just gives me an understanding of kind of where you are, right? In terms of what you think your risk is, and the risk is on a scale from 0 to 99, and 99 being the most risk, 0 being basically cash, right? Completely conservative.
Sure.
And then you come out, so say you come out as a 65. Now the S&P 500, which represents the total market, is a 75 on that scale. So if you're at 75 or lower, you're more conservative than the market. If you're above 75, you want to take on more risk than the general market, right? That's how that works. So now
Okay.
you come in, you tell me you're a 65. Okay, great. So you're a little bit, you want to be out in the risk scale, but you don't want to be any riskier than the market. You want to be a little bit more conservative. Fine. Then you give me the portfolio that you've created, and I run that to see what the score is on that portfolio. And the score in that portfolio is an 85. And I call you up and I go, Kevin, you tell me you want to be a 65, but yet the portfolio you create is an 85. So you're way more risk than you say you want. And so if the market takes a drawdown, this portfolio is going to get hit much more than you're willing to sacrifice.
Right.
So a lot of people don't realize that until they get a grade on what they've built, and then they realize, oh shit, this is either way too conservative for me or it's way too risky. Typically, it ends up being much more riskier than the person really wants to
Because
do.
Joe Public doesn't know
That correct,
what the risk of something is. Well, on
correct,
Netflix,
and
they're
so
really great. They've been
right
around.
because Netflix is probably in the 90 range. Nvidia is absolutely, if Nvidia is not a 99, it's a 95, right? But
Right.
yet then you take a stock like General Electric or Bank America, that might be a 68, right, versus the market, right? And so a lot of people don't necessarily know that, and you're going to only know that when you talk to an advisor that has those tools that can say to you, here's what
Right.
it is. And
I'm
here's how, and
guessing
listen, and whether I manage your money or not, I'm going to give you enough information that you can tweak it and kind of draw down or raise up your risk based on kind of the conversation we have.
yeah. And so like and I'm sure like Tesla right now, stocks are probably a little more volatile than they
Tesla's in the
normally are.
90s, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I pointed this out to somebody the other day because sometimes, like you said, the markets are reactionary. The markets also aren't how the actual business is doing. Some of the more stable ones are.
Correct.
So when there's some bad news out there and people get a bad gut feeling, it might have nothing to do with how successful that business is. Like you were talking about with Apple. Apple's 100 billion a year. It's like, oh, they went down to 99 billion, like
100 billion a quarter,
a quarter, right?
400 billion a year.
Right. So
Right.
they go down one quarter by $1 billion. It ain't the
Right.
end of the world.
It's not, it is so not the end of the world. It is
Right.
so not.
But
Right. And
you
that's the funny part about it is, the estimates were for 100 billion and they only made 99.2. And everyone goes, oh, they missed the number. Kidding me? Think of
who
that.
cares?
Just think of the number. Think about the
Right.
amount of zeros on that
Isn't
number. I think to myself, these people are nuts.
that
Right.
Apple brings in more in a quarter than we have in our defense budget. Isn't
It's,
that somewhere?
it's,
Like
it's,
aren't we
it's,
like 89 billion a year or something like
Yeah,
that?
I think so. Yeah, it's
Like
crazy. It is absolutely crazy that people react like that. I was going to tell you something else. Wait, let me just think about what I was going to say to you.
sure.
Um, just about that whole idea of investing.
Not Tesla.
Okay, let's talk because it'll come back to me because I
All
just
right.
forgot what you were saying.
So this is something I pointed out. So did you hear about Kia, right? Like how Kia has like their new cars can be like hacked with pretty much any smartphone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so what happens is like I'm sure it had an effect on Kia stock, and I didn't do any research into that, but I know people that just recently bought Kias, and
Yeah,
they just call their agent and say, "Add it to my plan, send it over to the DMV," and then, they have their registration, everything all taken care of at the dealership, and they walk out with their new Kia. And then
yeah,
come to find out when they get their bill in the email or in the mail or whatever, that they're now paying like an extra one to $3,000 a year in insurance,
right,
let alone what the stock is. And
right.
I have a feeling where like Tesla's stock will come back up after this whole like after Elon steps aside from Doge and goes back to running his companies, it'll die down like anything else in the political market. But what'll happen is there'll be so many insurance claims against Teslas that what's going to happen is it's going to be cost prohibitive for a lot of Joe homeowners to buy, because I want to buy a Tesla. I think they're really cool, but I
So
know that
you
what's going to happen is that they're going to hit me on the insurance side.
Why? Because what you're saying is that if somebody attacks your car, then you have to have it fixed. Is that what you
And
mean?
so some underwriter at
Right,
major insurance
right,
car companies are going
right,
to underwrite the hell out of it,
right,
and it's going to be like owning a Kia. You're
right.
too risky, and they're going to charge you on that back end, which is going to eventually discern sales. So it might not affect the stock price, but it's going to affect Tesla's sales price in the long
Sales.
term
Right,
because of this little incident. And
right.
eventually it'll probably level out and it'll come back down, but
I give it. I don't view this as a little incident. I think these people that are destroying Tesla cars like that, I think every one of them should have the book thrown at them. How
oh
dare
yeah,
you?
right.
It's beyond me that because Tesla. The funny part about it is there are cameras all over Teslas. You get recorded every time you do it, which I think is the funniest thing.
Right. And that's innovation. There's
I,
there's capitalism right there.
I think they should. I think they should throw the book at every one of. Listen, whether you like Elon Musk or not, there's no reason for you to go out and destroy my Tesla. Zero, zero, zero reason for you to do that. And by
Do
the
you own a
way,
Tesla?
I don't own a Tesla because I
Oh,
live in a
okay.
condo and I don't have a garage and I don't have all that. And there's no like I can't put the electricity in here. And I'm not going to I'm not going down to the wall
Sure.
to the local parking lot to plug my car in. I'm
The
just not doing
Publix or wherever.
it. Yeah, I'm not doing it. But what's interesting is that Tesla is more than just a car company, right? People think Tesla, they think it's a car company. It is so much more innovative than a car company.
Before I
It's
buy a
just
Tesla, I
one
might
of
buy
the
me an Optimus.
right. It's just one of the things they do. But Tesla's an amazing company for sure. But yes, at the moment it's under pressure because everyone's screaming and the far left is screaming about Elon Musk and Doge and all the fraud that he's finding. Which, by the way, I would think most people would be happy with finding all this
I
excess
I
waste. I
I
would
think it's
think
the
that
spin. I think it's the spin because then they put a
right.
spin on it and they say, "Well, no, he's not finding fraud. He's coming after your Social Security
He's
checks."
not coming after your
And
Social Security.
right, which is the third rail of politics. I listen to a
Right.
lot of Ben Shapiro too, and I mean that's it's the dumbest thing you could ever do is to come.
Right.
I mean, a smart like just like tearing the band-aid off with China, right? Somebody's gonna have to tear the band-aid off. Things are gonna get a little dicey with China, and then the markets will level back out once
Right.
we fix the problem. It's
Right.
like Elon's strategy with everything. He comes into a company, he breaks it, he tears it apart, he makes it more efficient, he does those layoffs,
Yeah.
and then it functions better, just like we talked about with big industry. And
Right.
that's going to happen with China. You're going to have to come in, you're going to have to lay the hammer down, you have to break a bunch of things,
Right.
fix it, and then come back, and you're better for it in the long run.
Right.
I think that has to happen with Social Security, Medicaid, all those things, but I don't think it's happening today. But
No.
I think it's coming to a head.
Listen, it has to happen. And look, I'm right at the point where I'm about to start collecting Social Security at some point, right? I'm 67. I'm 3 years away, but I'm
You
67, so I'm getting close to.
thought you were
Uh,
64.
no, when I'm 67
Oh,
is
oh, okay.
right. Wait, hold on 1 minute. Put this on hold for a second.
Sure.
No,
So,
but the whole Social Security thing. Look, so in a couple of years, right? I'd be ready to collect Social Security. Actually, if I wanted to, I could start collecting now because I am 64, so I could. But it doesn't make sense for me to do it now, right? One way or the
right.
other. One way or the other. When I hear things that the checks are still going out to people that are supposedly 150 years old, it infuriates me, and
Right.
it should infuriate every American out
Oh, of
there.
course. Yeah.
Why it's not is amazing to me.
Right. And then people say, well, it's small potatoes.
Well, it's not small
And
potatoes. You
it's small
take that.
potatoes. It's big potatoes for like a small little town like where I live, but it's small potatoes in terms of like the giant overspending of the major government. But
Okay, but it's still money going out the door to
of
people that
course,
shouldn't be getting it.
sure. No, I hear you. No, I completely get it. I think there needs to be audits all the time.
100%. So I don't know why there's this big pushback from from the left going, oh no, he's going to destroy Social. He's not destroying Social. In fact, if you get rid of that waste, you're actually strengthening Social Security.
Right, yeah, because now all of a sudden there's more money that could
That,
potentially get
that
redistributed and go up with
100%,
a
100%,
COLA or any of that other stuff.
100%.
And and so that's and the other thing that I always hear from people is, "Well, I've been investing my whole life and I want my money back." And it's like, "You've been investing and you're gonna end up getting more back than you put in." And that's the issue with the system.
Right.
Especially because what was it? When
People
Social
live
Security
longer. People
right,
live
people live on
longer.
when Social Security got created, the life expectancy of a human being was like 59 and 57. And so like you got to claim it like maybe partially at 62 and a half or fully at
Right.
65.
Right.
And most likely you were dead. So
Right.
like you
But
like people miss that point and it's like now we're living to what's 78 is the average female?
listen, I laugh. My grandmother started collecting at 62. She lived to 103 and she was completely with it right up until the day she died. She collected Social Security for 40 years,
Right.
right? It was
Oh yeah.
unbelievable.
Right, almost we're talking like it's a that's a 60-40 split. Like she worked for 60% of her life and then, and it's one of those like I think also retire like I hate to have to keep quoting like, one group of people or whatever, but like Ben Shapiro pointed this out. Like people retire and then they die. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that do that because they don't find something else to do.
100%. A hundred
Like
percent.
you keep yourself busy, like because you're like, hey man, you might actually be partially retired or whatever because it's like you don't have to work, but you
Right.
do because you found something that's interesting to you. Like,
Right.
and like you get somebody who's like, hey, I might be retired, but I take care of my grandkids, and they
Right.
give themselves purpose. You lose that purpose, and then
You
you're dead
hundred
meat.
percent. 100%.
My
Which is
dad's
why,
chiro.
which is why I love doing what I do because A, I love having conversations like this because A, I think it's important. And B, I think it helps educate people, especially obviously the younger generation that kind of needs to hear it and understand it and all that stuff. But I find it to be, for me, mentally stimulating, right? Mentally
Right.
stimulating to continue to have these conversations. And so I think it's great.
Yeah, no, and my dad's chiropractor retired when I think I was still in middle school, and my dad would talked about how Mr. Dodd retired, and he was like angry because my dad would have back problems, and he went and retired, and a week later he was dead.
Right.
He
You hear
died
that story a
when
lot.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, they die a week later, and it's kind of depressing, and it's like, man, I don't I have most of my portfolio is probably in real estate,
Yep.
so that's a large portion of it. Which I mean, that's one of the most conservative things you could probably buy, I would assume, besides
Well, but listen, it's also illiquid, right? If you needed money really quickly, it's illiquid. You can't really get it that fast in the event that you
right,
needed it, right? In
right,
the stock market, if you need money tomorrow, I hit the sell button, sell some stocks, and tomorrow you're going to have the cash. So that's what you just have to understand. If you own a lot of real estate, which is great, then you should make sure that you have a cash kind of emergency fund account that you have in the event that you need cash unexpectedly, right?
right, yeah, yeah. Furnace breaks or whatever in
Yeah,
case you're not me and you can't fix it yourself, right? Like,
correct. Correct. Yeah, I mean, listen, certainly there's nothing wrong with owning real estate. Let's be honest, right?
right,
There are people billionaires that started just owning real estate, haven't been in a stock their whole life. But if you don't have the ability to do that, and you want to start to build a portfolio that's going to create and build generational wealth, then then there's how you start.
right, yeah, for sure.
You know?
So I feel like there was is there anything else that you can think of, Kenny?
No, we've been talking for a long time, you and me.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to have you back on. I don't want to burn out your whole Saturday.
No. I'd be, we should plan on coming back on, 6 months from now. We'll see where the market is. We'll see what it's done. We'll see what the geopolitics has done to the market and all that. It'd
Right.
be great.
Yeah, we can maybe we'll start a segment where we'll do a prediction.
I'm
We'll get a
happy to do
prediction.
that.
We'll get a prediction going, you and me, and then we'll maybe we'll do we'll do like a bet, like or we'll say, hey, friendly dollar or whatever, and say,
Right.
okay, well, I think this portfolio of stocks is going to go this way. Maybe you think it's going to go the other way, and we'll
Right.
try to fix something we might disagree on because that's always the spice of life, right?
Right.
Is a
That's
little bit
always
of
the spice. Right.
right,
Getting to disagree and then see who comes out on top.
right, and it's all in good fun. So yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, listen, have a great day. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I hope your audience appreciates it. And I'm happy to do it again with you.
All right, awesome, Kenny. I appreciate it, and I'll be in touch with you. Some of that other stuff we talked about, like distribution and things like that. So
Yeah, perfect.
yeah,
I'd like to have that conversation. We'll do it offline.
okay, sounds good. All right,
All
Kenny.
right.
All right, gang. Well, this was Kenny Polcari, and we appreciate you tuning in today, and we will see you guys next time on Life 22.